money. The latest batch of stimulus checks last week included nearly $1.2 billion in plus-up payments as more 2020 tax returns are processed.
The plus-up payments are money that is owed to the taxpayers for their stimulus checks, but they didn't get the full amount they were supposed to get.
The IRS began sending out the third round of stimulus checks in January, before most people filed their 2020 taxes.
Some states are trying to step up where Congress failed. In Vermont, Republican governor and a Democratic state legislature signed off on a $1,000 tax credit for every child 5 and under. Phil Scott, the state's Republican governor, had initially proposed a wider shift of tax cuts. In a statement, Governor Scott said it would have helped a broader cross-section of taxpayers, but that this bill is a step in the right direction. Everybody, what are your thoughts on President Biden so far? So it is here. Lawmakers have approved a new financial relief program. These checks will be worth at least $300. And now new extra stimulus cash will be making its way to thousands of Americans in the form of $300 direct payments as soon as this summer. Hawaii's governor first proposed a tax refund in his 2022 State of the State address. The governor signed it into law this week. He told reporters at the start of 2022, "We made a commitment to support programs and policies that would help our residents get back on their feet." Both bills represent a collaborative effort to bring the people of Hawaii some relief as we continue to recover from a 2-year crisis. So in order to be eligible for a tax refund under this legislation, you have to earn less than $100,000 a year. And for those whose earnings are above those thresholds, you will receive $100. The tax rebate package will benefit taxpayers and dependents who filed in the state, and is expected to cost the state about $250 million. That means an eligible family of 4 could earn up to $1,200 in state funds. And according to the Department of Taxation, refunds are due to start rolling out in the last week of August. The measure also commits $500 million to Hawaii's rainy day fund and prepays $300 million for retirement liabilities. The second bill passed increases the state's minimum wage for the first time since 2018, from $10 an hour to $12 an hour starting October, and it will increase to $14 an hour in 2024, $16 an hour in 2026, and then $18 an hour in 2028. Now, rebates will continue for hundreds of thousands of people in New Mexico. However, unlike the first 2 rounds of stimulus, in May and June, the last anticipated effort from July have some strings attached. Specifically, the upcoming rebates have an income threshold, meaning those who made over a certain amount of money in the 2021 calendar year will not be eligible. The latest tax rebate checks are eligible for New Mexico residents who filed their 2021 taxes. As mentioned, there's an income threshold tied to these rebates, which is different for both single filers and joint filers. According to the New Mexico Tax and Revenue Department, the rebates should be processing during the first full week of July, or next week, and Moore says it will take the full month for the rebates to get out to eligible taxpayers. So for many people, you may not receive a payment for several weeks. As for how the payments will be rolled out, well, the state will pay July rebates automatically.
Available to most families is dwindling.
I think what's most important is help is on the way. This is about putting people first, letting folks know that we understand how horrible this has been in so many different ways, and we want to have your back. And let's get through this together.
And right now, as this COVID bill moves forward, it's important to update your information with the IRS. And that information we're talking about, your personal banking information, everything down to your home address. Last stimulus check, the last go around, more than...
The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. I thank him for his leadership on the very important elements of the rule that will be brought to the floor today. I thank him. I thank all the members of the Rules Committee. I particularly want to acknowledge the leadership of Chairman Jim McGovern for his leadership in bringing so much policy to bear in this one rule as we proceed with the week's legislation. I rise today in what is a momentous week for our House Democratic majority as we carry on our work to defend America's health, security, and freedom. The rule includes 5 pieces of landmark legislation, which the gentleman, Mr. Morelli, has very clearly explained. I thank him and Mr. McGovern again for their skilled leadership in assembling this rule and steering this crucial legislation to the floor. First this week, we'll have our version of NDAA, which you explained. It supports our nation's servicemen and women. It strengthens our national security and promotes national leadership on the global arena. Our majority is delivering new pay raises for heroic men and women in uniform while securing more investments in the next generation of defense technology to keep us strong and qualitatively superior. We are strengthening the security of DoD supply chains while advancing new and fundamental research at HBCUs and MSIs. And we are further supporting the Ukrainian people in their fight for democracy with $1 billion additional in security assistance. Let us salute the Chair, Adam Smith, and the Armed Services Committee for their persistent patriotic leadership in assembling this legislation, which will help that Americans are safe and that our democracy is secure. Next week, again, when we're talking about our security, we have to talk about our veterans. And as you said, we promise them when they fight for us, we will protect them when they come home. This bill, the PACT Act, takes another monumental step to care for our brave men and women in uniform who risk their lives.
A new bill has been proposed that would help and provide many Americans with a $400 stimulus check, everybody. You want to be sure to continue watching this video to find out how to receive it. So these payments could be received by next month, and California Governor Newsom has not been hesitant to send out more crisis relief money to help people in need in the state of California. And with the federal enhanced child tax credit reverting to its original pre-crisis payment of $2,000 per kid, the latest state-initiated benefit program that Newsom could authorize would target the state's most vulnerable and economically disadvantaged people. Los Angeles Assembly member is proposing to use some of California's $97 billion surplus to help support the state's low-income families. And per marca, one-time payments will go to the state's poorest and those making under $30,000 a year. The proposed Assembly bill recommends expanding the current child tax credit to administer a payment of $2,000 per child. The bill also proposes extending the California Earned Income Tax Credit to raise the minimum amount from $1 to $255. According to state officials, the bill passed through the California State Assembly on May 27th, now rests with the Governance and the Finance Committee. Newsom has already announced an $18 billion package aimed at relieving inflation for our struggling Californians. The proposed relief program would include $400 checks to all eligible registered vehicle owners in the state. The proposal comes as drivers face record gas prices. Newsom said we enacted the most comprehensive economic stimulus program in the nation last year, getting billions of dollars in immediate relief to Californians. Many folks are still struggling, especially with high costs due to inflation. And so we're leveraging a historic surplus to get money back into the pockets of Californians. Other areas of financial relief include public transportation and childcare for low-income families. Newsom's plan would offer these services for an even further subsidized rate, if not free of charge, for a limited time. A further $1,500 in relief checks is also proposed for hospital and nursing home staff. A new minimum wage will take effect in California next year, an increase caused by inflation. The California Department of Finance said they project inflation for the 2022 fiscal year will be even higher than the year before, causing the increase. The governor has also announced that Connecticut families, everybody, can soon apply to receive a state tax rebate of up to $250 per child for a maximum of 3 kids as a result of the recently enacted 2022 Connecticut Child Tax Credit Rebate that he signed into law earlier this month. The governor told reporters, in addition to making groundbreaking investments in childcare, crime prevention, and caring for our most vulnerable, the budget that we just enacted provides relief